All right, let's get right into it. We're not just telling the story of a watch company today. Oh no, we are cracking open the secret financial playbook of an empire worth over $10 billion. An empire built on a piece of technology that, let's be honest, should be completely obsolete.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Inside one of these watches, you've got over 200 tiny, intricate parts, all put together by hand. A $10 digital watch from the corner store is technically more accurate. So how on earth did this little mechanical machine, in a world of iPhones and satellites, become one of the most stable and sought-after financial assets on the entire planet?
And that's the whole point. This didn't happen by luck. It was a series of incredibly smart, deliberate, strategic moves. It was a playbook, refined over 100 years, designed specifically to turn a simple timepiece into a fortress of value. And today, we're going to break down the rules of that very playbook. So that brings us to the first, and honestly, the most important rule of them all. This is the bedrock of the entire Rolex empire. It's a rule about ownership, and it gives Rolex a kind of power that almost no other major company on Earth has. Picture this. It's 1944. The world is literally tearing itself apart during World War II. And right in the middle of all that chaos, Rolex's founder, Hans Wilsdorf, makes a move that will secure his company's future for the next 100 years. And you know what? It had absolutely nothing to do with watches and everything to do with money. This right here, this was the masterstroke. Wilsdorf transferred his entire ownership of Rolex to a private charitable foundation. Think about what that means. Rolex is owned by a charity. It doesn't answer to shareholders. It doesn't have to worry about hitting quarterly profit targets to please Wall Street. It can sacrifice short-term gains for long-term brand power. Every single time. And this number says it all. 0. That's the most powerful number in their entire business model. 0 public shareholders to answer to. 0 activist investors trying to shake things up. 0 pressure to grow at all costs. This one simple number is the source of all of their strategic freedom. Okay, so with all that financial freedom, how did they build such insane demand for their product? Well, that leads us right into rule number 2. You see, Rolex doesn't just make watches. They meticulously, brilliantly engineer the desire for them. Just look at these numbers for a steel Daytona. You walk into a dealer, and if you are one of the luckiest people on the planet, you might get to pay around 13 grand for it. The second you walk out that door, that exact same watch is worth 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times that price on the open market. And listen, that gap, that's not a mistake. It's a feature. It's the physical proof of desire. And that desire is fueled by one thing: scarcity. But here's the kicker. It's not some cynical marketing trick. Rolex's scarcity is structural. They say, we will only make as many watches as our master watchmakers can perfectly produce. It takes years to train one, and they refuse to rush it. And what's the powerful side effect of that obsession? Their products stop being things you just buy and start behaving like assets that actually go up in value. But being hard to get isn't enough. You need a story that people desperately want to be a part of. And that brings us to rule number 3. Rolex built its legend not in some fancy marketing department, but out there in the harshest environments on Earth. I mean, just look at this track record. A watch that survived a swim across the English Channel in 1927. A watch that became a symbol of defiance and hope for Allied POWs. A watch on the very summit of Mount Everest in 1953. And a watch so connected to an icon like Paul Newman that his personal one sells for almost $18 million. You can't make this stuff up. This is history that was earned, not invented. And that gives them a credibility that their competitors just can't buy. The founder, Hans Wilsdorf, he said it best himself. He didn't just promise his watches were tough. He proved it. He put one on that English Channel swimmer, and then he bought the entire front page of a newspaper to show everyone the proof. That whole philosophy, it's baked right into their DNA. So when you take all these rules, owning yourself, engineering desire, weaponizing your history, they all lead to one final strategic endgame. And that is achieving total, absolute control over every single part of the business. And this is how they do it. They don't just assemble watches. They make everything. They have their own gold foundry, for crying out loud. They use a special, more expensive kind of steel that almost no one else uses because it's harder to work with. And then, just recently, they made a shocking move and bought their biggest retailer, Bouguerer, giving them direct control over that final, crucial step, the experience you have when you buy the watch. So what's the result of all that control? Staggering dominance. This chart shows Rolex as a single brand commanding nearly a third of the entire global luxury watch market.
To put that in perspective, its closest competitors, Swatch and Richemont, only get to those numbers by combining dozens of different brands together. It's incredible.
And this is the part that you really have to understand. Rolex isn't playing for growth anymore. Their latest moves, like building a massive new billion-dollar factory, it's not about pumping out more watches. It's about fortifying the brand, securing its legacy. They're not playing for next year. They are playing for permanence. And that strategy of permanence, well, it has a pretty attractive bottom line. The estimated revenue for 2024 is over 10.5 billion Swiss francs. That's a huge testament to a playbook that's been executed with absolute discipline for over a century.
So what are the big lessons here? What can we learn from the Rolex playbook? First, your ownership structure is everything. It defines your destiny. Second, you can't fake your history. Authentic heritage has to be earned. Third, scarcity is way more valuable than abundance. Fourth, let your product be so good it creates its own legends. And finally, total control, vertical integration. It's not a cost center. It is the ultimate competitive moat.
And that, I think, really gets to the heart of it all. What's the real difference between just a product and a masterpiece? A product is designed for this quarter's earnings report. A masterpiece is built to last, to be worth even more in 100 years than it is today. Rolex doesn't just sell you the time, it sells you a piece of permanence. And in our crazy, fast-moving world, that just might be the most valuable asset of all.